The majority of people who are unlawfully present in the United States actually did not enter illegally. They entered with visas and for one reason or another overstayed. This video is about options when someone overstays their visa. Oftentimes, I will consult with people who've been in the US unlawfully for some time, and one of the first questions they ask me is whether they can qualify for a work permit or a green card in any way. And the first thing that they ask is whether they can change their status to some employment-based visa. Oftentimes they have an employer or somebody who's willing to sponsor them, or so that's what they told them they're willing to do. And so they came to me to consult to see if this is a viable option. And the answer almost always is no. If you are unlawfully present in the US, you cannot change your status to any employment-based category. That's one of the major barriers that people who are unlawfully present in the US currently face. During the consultation, my client will oftentimes ask, well, okay, my employer can't petition for me. Can I marry a US citizen? Yes, you can. And that brings me to the first category, immediate relatives. If you entered the US with a visa, it doesn't matter if you have unlawful presence. If you adjust your status to permanent residence using 3 different family categories. So that was a complicated way of basically saying there are 3 types of family relationships that can help you become a permanent resident if you're illegally in the United States. The first one is a US citizen spouse. The second one is a 21-year-old or older US citizen son or daughter. So if you have a child who's a US citizen and they're over age 21 and you are here illegally, they could probably petition for you and give you a green card. The third way is for minors when their parents are US citizens. That's it. Those are the only 3 immediate relative family categories that you can use to become a permanent resident if you're unlawfully present in the US. There are other family categories referred to as preference categories, but these categories are not really good options if you're unlawfully present in the United States. Let me give you one example. A sibling petition will currently take around 14 years. A US citizen who has an immigrant sibling can petition for them. But if the immigrant sibling is unlawfully present in the United States, even after those 14 years passed, the immigrant probably won't be able to use that petition to apply for permanent residence for several reasons which are beyond the scope of this video. The second option that's available if you've overstayed applies specifically to children under the age of 21, or adults if they're under the age of 21. This is called special immigrant juvenile status. It's a little bit of a complicated form of relief, form of immigration status, but basically it involves going to family court or your state's equivalent of a family court and obtaining a special immigrant juvenile order, which basically says the child has been abandoned, neglected, or abused by at least one parent. And we can use that order to apply for permanent residence. It's actually a pretty straightforward process. And it's a great option if you're under age 21. Now, I understand that the majority of the viewers of this video are not under age 21. So there are 2 other options I want to discuss. These are not the greatest options. I would much rather prefer an immediate relative petition, but these options are out there. The first one is called a U visa, which is for victims of crime. Actually, there is more than just a U visa. There are other things like a T visa, it's for trafficking victims. There's VAWA, which is Violence Against Women Act, also applies to men. It's not gender specific. Basically, if you've been the victim of any crime in the United States, it's a good idea to speak to a lawyer, because even if you entered illegally or if you've overstayed, there may be a pathway to fix your status using one of these humanitarian options. And the final option that I want to discuss today is asylum. Asylum can be a defense from deportation if you've entered illegally, or you can apply for it affirmatively if you've entered with a visa. So it's an option that's available to anyone who's entered the US legally or illegally. One of the important things for asylum is that you must apply for it within your first year of entry, regardless of how you entered. You have to demonstrate that you have a fear of returning to your home country and a ton of other requirements. It's not easy, but it's extremely fact-specific and country-specific. So I mention it generally here, but it shouldn't be your primary option if you have other options. And by the way, if you are actually considering asylum, I have 3 videos that discuss it, and I posted them a few months ago. I strongly recommend checking those out. The immigration code is unnecessarily long and complicated. There is no way I can go through every single option in a YouTube video. What I did in this video was try to go through the main options that I discussed with people initially during a consultation. But as I learn more about the person during the consultation, I go through other conceivable options as well, which may be specifically applicable to what they're telling me. If you have a situation and you want me to comment on it, put it in the comments below. I go through all of them and I'll answer it to the best of my ability. If you want something more confidential, a lot of time where we go through everything from start to finish, a consultation would probably be more appropriate. If you're new to my channel, I post videos regularly discussing immigration topics, and I use user feedback to decide what my new topics are, so please comment, like, and subscribe.